So what Distort allows me to do with this beak shape is it allows me to have a wider top and a narrower bottom. Something that can feel right to me. I can also use warp if I want it to be a little more organic feeling, and this beak is. But it's very hard to keep something symmetrical using warp. I'm going to kind of pinch it off. So we're exploring these tools as we go. Distort lets you make one end of the shape a different proportion than the other. Warp allows you to bend it on the curves of a wire frame. And then don't forget that scale and rotate are always an option for you as well. Now, because it's very much like cutting paper, it really matters which layer is on top of which layer. So there's a lot of black on the shape of the beak, but I want this to be the yellow part. But my black shape is going to be more complicated and lay over the top of it. Let me get the color of that beak, something like that, and now I have this. Okay. So now the black shape, and that's going to be where I end it for today before I kind of finish it up. Keep it really simple. I'm going to go ahead and use the custom shape tool. Again, I want to be on the top layer. This is custom shape tool again. It will remember the last one I used. And I'm going to transform it, mess with it. And because I can see all the vectors, I can see where I can push and pull this if I want to. And you would do that using what's called the direct selection tool if you want to start playing with actual vectors. And you can push and pull individually like this and change your custom shape. But again, we'll be learning that in Illustrator, and I think it will be an easier tool to use there for a variety of reasons. So for this, I'm just going to keep to the shape tool options and then the transform options. But you'll notice that each shape layer has this little vector box in the corner. Each of these is a vector shape, which means individually they are still infinitely scalable. I could change the resolution of this file as much as I want, and it will always work. It will always be perfectly clean because it's a vector. Okay, so that's going to be the first shape I use because this black on the beak is very complicated. This will be the first one I use. I can move it under and then I can pick its color based on what's there. So it's kind of a dark brown right now. And then I want another shape here. So if your shape's really complicated, go ahead and use multiple shapes to get it. Transform it, use warp. I'm going to curve it around. You do have to be a little careful with warp. You can actually twist it on itself, and then that can look really odd. So I always think of it like rolling dough. You have to kind of work it from all edges at all times. And don't forget just your basic transformations to help you get there, like rotate and scale. And using the move tool, of course, lets you position it. You don't always have to customize the shape if all you really need to do is just tweak the position. Now to get the color to match, I can actually just click on it and then click on the other image, and now it all looks like one shape together. And then you can always go back to any one of your shapes and modify it a little bit more. Just get it exactly where you want it. So that's what I have so far. And those are actually all the big, most basic shapes. I guess a little triangle of dark here would be helpful. So I'll put that in. Again, a three-sided polygon, it will remember your last selection. And this is interesting. If you have it underneath the layer, as long as you're selected on that layer, you can modify it from there. So I'll use the move tool. I'll use transform. I can use distort to move the points of that triangle and still keep them nice and straight. And then I'm going to use the warp to make it into that softer curve. If you need to zoom in to get better detail, it's Command plus. Command minus is zoom out. If you need it all to fit on the screen, it's Command 0. And as you get to more and more detailed shapes, you might keep that in mind. And if you want to move around while you're zoomed in, no matter what tool you're using, just hold down the space bar, click and drag, and that will move your cursor around. Again, the warp tool is like kneading dough. It's going back and forth all the time. Getting it on all sides until it's what you want. Something subtle like that. All right. So now, this is what I have, but I need to play with the layer order a little bit. In particular, I need to get this black shape I just did, this dark shape, underneath that red wing. And then let's see, are there other, I might want this blue to be underneath that big oval. And this is kind of an interesting shape to start with. What am I missing? Well, I'm missing the full colors here, which are more vibrant and dark. And I'm missing this background color. So before I start doing all the individual colors, let me make some changes. So first I'm going to turn this layer back to 100%. And it's also, I can always reference it here with my preview image. And I'm going to turn that big shape into the light pink. So what am I going to do? I'm going to click on the color selector for that big shape, and I'm going to steal the white pink directly from that full opacity image. So now it looks like that. Next, I'm going to do it for that dark shape of the beak, which is here and here and here. And it's more of a blue, so I'm gonna have that image showing at 100%, and then I'm gonna click on the color selectors and pick from those dark blues. But then because I want them all to match, the other color selectors I'll just use from my existing vector shapes. So that's looking good. So this is what I have so far. Those colors are pretty good. It'd be nice to have that little splash of red right there, so I might decide I need one more shape. Let me put that in really quick. By now I'm used enough to the techniques, or I'm familiar enough with these techniques that it will just work. And then I want to make its color actually match the red I have. But that red's really pale compared to this red, so why don't I actually just steal this red? See how that looks. Oh, that's nice and vibrant. I'll do that for this wing as well. But then of course I need to move that red behind the blue. And then that might make me decide to warp the blue a little bit. And so you just are now finishing it up by tweaking some of your selections, making sure everything works in the strongest possible way. Now that little stream of white, that seems really important. So it's really kind of vital to work with the most simple, big shapes first, and then work your way down to the more complicated, kind of detailed shapes. You'll just save a lot of effort doing it that way. Now this is a really complicated little S-curve shape, but luckily most of it's behind other shapes, so I don't need to get it perfect. I just need to get the edge of it there. If you use the move tool, you can avoid having to see all those vector points. And its color, I'm going to base on the color here and just steal it from there. So nice, bold, lighter color. And then I want to move it back behind the red, but on top of the, well, let's see. Behind the red, maybe behind the blue, I'll have to see. That's in between the two. It almost works. That's a little bit better. And then I'll just tweak the shape a little bit. Something more like that. Now the major thing I'm missing is this black going behind the beak, which really sets it off nicely, and of course the little antenna, which help move the eye. And maybe I'll get to those next time. But before I finish that off, I want to just get a background plate behind everything. So that's just one big shape. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see the whole thing. I'm going to make one big rectangle. Covers the whole thing, even beyond. And then I'm going to steal its color from this background color. And then I move that vector shape behind everything else. So there's little areas where I can improve it. You notice some of the first shapes I did now, by comparison to the others, look like the most awkward, like this butterfly wing. But this is a really solid start and gets you used to the shape tools in Photoshop. So how am I going to